Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, folks.
Hello.
We are in group 14. Good to meet you all.
Hey, Han.
So, first thing that I think we should check is that if any of us doesn't want to be elected, I think it is better to make clear the intention not to be elected. Is there anyone? Okay, Spencer. All right.
Is there anyone who's choosing to run? Nobody's indicated it with their name. Great.
I'm running.
Yeah. I'm not gonna run.
Okay.
So
Not either.
then you should. I think we're supposed to indicate it. Good. Okay.
All right. So should it be, why don't we just introduce ourselves? Because we are just four of us and then we have a plenty of time, 50 minutes, right?
Sure.
Who should he go first?
How about you?
Okay. My name is Han and I'm from South Korea, Seoul. And at the moment I'm sitting in Germany because I was dropping by my brother's house. And then I'm running a South Korea based BP called EOS Node 1. So we have been in the chain from the beginning, and then I was almost given up when I saw Dan left, throwing the towel. But then after seeing how Dan is making his moves, and then after reading his book, The More Equal Animals, the book, and translating them into Korean, I just learned that this could be very revolutionary if it end up succeeding. So that's how I got involved with the whole Eden thing, and I'm so glad to be here. So that's it. That's my name is Han. Yeah.
Good to meet you, Han. Cool.
Nice meeting you, Spencer.
Good to meet you, Han.
Mm. So anyone else?
So you're one of the ones that helped translate the book into Korean.
Yeah. Actually,
Wow.
ended up crowdfunded like $7,000 to get that book translated. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Wow. Good work. That was pretty exciting to see.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Awesome,
awesome.
huh?
And thank you for getting it translated.
Mm.
Who's
So
next?
You
Josh?
complete? Josh?
Do you want to answer some of those questions or statements from inside the instructions? Like, why do you want to be elected? What do you believe about the project that allows you the opportunity to create value?
Yeah. I'm also excited to get to know everybody a little bit personally. If you're not comfortable with that, then that's fine.
it's fine. It's totally fine. So reading his book, I just found it that more equal animal. Actually, the whole concept of this democratic process that proposed by Dan, which is applied in this very process of Eden, I see it is game changing if it ends up successful, and it's game changing not only for the blockchain but also society at large, even in normal real world, not crypto world, real normal world that we live in. And myself being from South Korea, which has more than 15% of all EOS tokens, um, I ended up imagining like, okay, if we end up having more than 1,000, 10,000 people engaging with Eden, and if we can end up winning, like having our own, Korea's own Eden community, we'll end up getting 0.25% of the budget annually. We could literally build up a small city. That's how I thought. Because in the end, if the price at the moment, the price is about $10, $11, is it? I think if it end up being like a $20-$30, the budget is humongous. And I think we can leverage that fund in so many different ways. One of the projects that I wanted to tell you at the moment that I'm working on right now, if you take a look at the list of the whales in EOS network, the biggest account, have you ever seen the whale list? Can you
How do we
get,
see that?
you saw that?
No, how do we see that?
How do you see it? The easiest way you can do that is go to EOS Flare. Let me show my screen.
Yeah.
EOS Flare.
Oh, just on a block explorer and you can see the whales. I haven't studied that whale list, no.
So different blog explorers gives different functionality. And if I wanted to see a list of whales, I like EOS Flare the most. Okay. So number one, EOSIO.stake. This shows that how much of the EOS tokens are staked. Although, at the moment, it's, the system, the whole EOS network has transitioned into power up. So it isn't relevant anymore, but then still, so many people are still staking their tokens. So stake tokens, there's about 40 million, 400 million. Is it 400 million? 407. So this is the biggest account. And block one sitting at number 3. And number 2, this is actually, if we don't think about EOSIO.stake, this is the biggest, RPTRXWGFEQYN. It has 102 million. It's about 10% of the whole network value. And this is Korean exchange called Upbit. Upbit is the most loved exchange in Korea, but then they haven't been voted. Meaning, like at the moment, EOS BP's landscape is mostly controlled by Huobi and ZB, and let me just show you. You see, okay, ZB, Huobi, these guys have so many tokens, and then they cast the votes on their own whim. They don't even ask their customers who their customers wanting to vote as a BP. Do you understand? Yeah. So at the moment, we are setting up a Korea EOS Token Holders Association to take a group action toward Upbit so that they can delegate their vote to the community. So we are setting up a Korean proxy with with that proxy, we will vote only those BPs who don't buy the votes from other exchanges. So if you are buying the votes from Huobi, if you're buying the votes from OK, we don't vote you. For example, at the moment, most of the BPs, including me, including all the other BPs, you can assume that most of the paid BPs, they are paying at least 80% of what they are making to those exchanges. And proxy middlemen is a harsh truth. And when we vote with Upbit amount, which is the biggest, even bigger than block one, it's going to be free. It's not going to charge any money to BPs so that they can hire people to build dApps and build tools and then do some promotions and marketings and organize events and so on. And then, but then there's one condition: you shall not buy any other votes from other exchanges or proxy middlemen. What that means is that existing vote selling exchanges and existing vote selling proxy middlemen, they're not going to make any money from those BPs anymore. So whole landscape of BPs will change a lot. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. So far, I'm not sure how long 3 of you guys have been with EOS so far, but then witnessing everything from the very beginning, one of the biggest problem that I've been noticed is the vote selling issue. The exchanges, custodying exchanges and proxies selling the votes. That is one of the single most important root cause of many symptoms on the surface. So if we end up winning the vote with Korean Token Holders Association from the upbit, I think it will be game changing. So my gut feeling is that they will take the offer. So that will end up with more fund flowing in the whole community, so that those developers who has already left the community will come back, because there's funds and then there's projects. So that's the thing that I wanted to see in near term future of EOS, like a 3, 4, 5 month.
Cool. I have a question. Is this a tool that could be used by any, because you specifically mentioned that it was for the Korean exchanges. Is this a tool that could be used for anybody in the community to put pressure on any exchange to say, hey, use this tool so that your depositors can vote for the BPs that they want?
Good question, Spencer. Actually, we have made the Aloha. No. Generous.
Yeah.
And EOS Rio and Node 1, our node, and some one our BP that I forgot. Anyway, 4 of us have made a tool. Let me share with you.
And just out of respect for time, this is
Yeah,
awesome.
sorry.
We should probably all just do a quick introduction. My name is Thomas Holgren. I worked at Block One, and I've been out of Block One for some time now. I'm a believer in EOS IO and in EOS as a blockchain. I'm here in support of you guys, and I got the problem that we need governance to address the issues of funding the entire community, and I'm here for that. And I really like what you're saying, Han. And I guess out of respect for time, Josh would like to also run. Is that right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should cede some time to Josh to make his case. And if there's time, Josh, you can cede back to Han. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoy what you're presenting there, Han. Well, my name's Josh. Right now I'm living in central Mexico. I'm a native of North America. I'm married and I have 2 young daughters, one 3, one I guess she'll be turning 7 months. I want to be elected because I want to contribute at the moment. I want to contribute 2 main things to the community. There's one little piece that I think is missing from the governance of Eden, and as well as even among the BPs that are elected, that I think I haven't seen it emphasized in any any type of governance that exists yet on the planet, at least in the English speaking world that I'm more familiar with. And I don't see it being emphasized in any blockchain, including EOS. And I think whoever implements it is going to have an unfair advantage going forward. So I want to show you what that one thing is. The other thing I want to contribute is I would like to see Eden immediately deployed into every major city in the world. My emphasis would be the English and the Spanish speaking world, because I'm married to a native citizen of Mexico, and it would just be easier for me to maneuver in those worlds, but I'd be willing to support wherever the attention and interest and engagement is, whatever the power approach to the situation is. The reason why I would like it deployed into cities is because I think it's a lot easier to make it a permanent part of the charter or the charter equivalent of the city. And my company is working on some software. We're in super early stages of it. I could share a little bit about it if you want, but a software that would add some governance features for cities. So deploying a site and an app into a city that gives them the ability to, well, I don't want to go into too much detail about it unless you guys want to hear more. But being able to do things with the charter with the marketplace for the funds, with the proposals and projects, and then being able to see the success rate and the satisfaction of those kind of things. The first one, they're both really important to me, and they kind of go hand in hand. And there's kind of a third element to, if a site and app was deployed into the major cities in the world, let's say every city with a population of 100,000 or more in city limits, the I the way things are evolving with EOS, I see the opportunity to create some kind of a Oracle network that would be, it could become like a benevolent AI eventually, and we could create some sort of an ostracization system that starts to figure out when people are breaking the rules. And if we're living in smart cities, if we've got smart cars, if we've got smart homes, if all of our financial stuff is digital, the way that the world seems to be going, the UN and the World Economic Forum agendas, which philosophically I don't agree with, but I think we need to empower ourselves to have some kind of alternative. If they already want these things, we need the ability to ostracize real criminals. Like turn off their money, they can't leave their house, they can't drive their car, they can't leave the city, or they can't re-enter the city. Their social credit tanks. Anyone associated with them is, so this kind of brings in Clarion a little bit. And I think some sort of Oracle network that follows this first thing that I mentioned and is deployed on the city level would be a very manageable, practical way to do it. And there'd be a lot of repercussions from implementing it. Basically, we would end the rule of man, and it would make it that doing so would allow us to launch the wealth, health, and peace of mankind. And to me, after all of this COVID nonsense, it seems to me the nodes in the network are the cities, and that's where all of this stuff is being enforced and allowed to happen.
Cool, Josh. That's a big vision. What do you think the likelihood of success is for you? So your background is programmer or business? What's your background?
My background is business development.
Yeah.
I haven't been involved as a BP or anything in the community, but I've witnessed and watched the project since the beginning. I'm probably a big fan of Dan, but I obviously really believe in Dan, but I also really believe in the EOS community. So I'm not invested in any other projects in the space at all. I pay attention to what's going on, but I just I'm betting 100% on EOS.
Very interesting. You actually, what you want to do locally in Mexico, you are to me it sounds like you are into local impact. And actually I'm thinking exactly the same thing. Actually, I my one of my vision is to build a charter city in collaboration with a small city called Andong in Korea, which population is about 160,000, and and leverage Eden to build a blockchain-based local community. It's very interesting. Even out of this election, I really wanted to learn more about how you end up thinking that way, and then how you get involved with that, all that you are doing right now, and more about your idea with Eden. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. That's a good point, Han. There's a lot of, I don't want to live in any of these cities that I'm talking about. I'm working with people to create communities because I'm not aware of any cities or towns that are designed the way that I'd like to live and raise my daughters. And I imagine there's lots of people like us that are building these. They've already been building, or they're starting now to use some of their funding and resources to build things around the globe. So pretty soon there's going to be a network of there's going to be new nodes in the network, I guess we could say. They'll probably be smaller and more manageable. But at the moment, what's giving the UN and the World Economic Forum their power, to me, seems to be these existing cities where people have already organized themselves. So like I want to live in peace and as much of paradise as we can, as much of Eden as we can experience right now. I don't want to wait for the world to change, but at the same time, if I was going to redirect resources of funds or a community, what would be the power approach to ending the anti-civilization that we live in and bringing, kind of amplifying the onset of the super civilization that's starting to emerge. And I don't know, every time I think about it, I keep coming back to cities. And if political playoffs and the Eden protocol, even EOS itself, and this other thing I haven't mentioned, the first thing I mentioned that I didn't show you guys yet, if that could become a part of the charter of cities, which I don't think is that difficult to get the democratic mandate for that to happen, and give the people the software that makes it really easy for them to collaboratively edit their charter. I mean, imagine 100, 200, 300, 1,000 cities running on political playoffs and using Eden to do it.
Wow.
What time does this break out? Is it 9:50 or did he say 50 minutes and we started late?
We are going to be kicked out automatically after 50 minutes. So to my recorder, it says we are 20 minutes in. It's becoming 21 minutes. So we have more time. And
Okay.
Spencer, would you be able to introduce a bit?
Yes, Spencer, moved from Utah recently. I'm living in Texas now. One of the many that is migrating to Texas. The traffic is getting terrible. The house prices are going up. The moving vans are flocking in. It's crazy. It's real. We still have gas here, so it's not like East Coast. I have 3 kids. My oldest is 13. My youngest turned 7 yesterday. Married, mechanical engineer by background, not a programmer. Followed Dan Larimer before EOS. So I was a Genesis member, excited about the promise of life, liberty, property, and justice for all. It's been a long, bumpy road, grinding road for EOS, and I'm so glad Dan is back kind of pushing the community toward tools for consensus. This is powerful, I think. And both Josh and Han, you were talking about hopes for empowering communities. Pretty cool. And on a big scale, cities. I'm excited about that too. I think the future of Eden could be enormous, where you fund, a waterfall in the middle of the Amazon to mine Bitcoin, and then around that power center, you have a city that's built. Like you could fund giant infrastructure, maybe, with these kinds of cooperative, anyway, the cooperative power that EOS allows. I'm excited about it, excited to see what happens, excited to be a part of it. I think it's the start of hopefully something revolutionary, and it is a fire that spreads to the rest of the world, because I think the rest of the world is frustrated in not feeling like their vote counts. Taxation without representation is a big theme now, right? It's governance, maybe broader than just taxation. It's just governance without representation. And I feel like this could give a lot of people hope for feeling like their vote counts. So that's why I'm in it. And yeah, how about you, Thomas? It's me.
It's a good question. I really like what you're saying, Spencer. I really believe in what the possibility of blockchain. I see that there are huge problems with financial systems around the world based on the US dollar. I'm attracted primarily to EOSIO because of the governance opportunity. I believe in what Dan is doing. I want to make it easy for people to use and easy for people to participate, and to let ideas come up from the people and allow people to vote on what they believe in what they believe the cities and what they believe that society needs, and to be able to get those things funded, because so much of what's money that's spent in the world is spent on defense, and which is used just huge amounts of money just going out the window to projects basically run by people who are connected to the Federal Reserve. And as a result, we don't really have consensus from the people, and we have elections that are completely a mess. You know, the last election, I'm not even sure was an election in the United States. And I think a lot of people see that and have a lot of concern. And any new kind of election process that can eliminate the possibility for political parties to use the Pareto principle to be able to divide the people and take control and allow a small few to run everything. An experiment that allows us to build consensus and prevent that from happening and to see what the world could be like is a really exciting experiment for me. And I want to see that happen. I want to help make that happen. I want to be a part of it. And I'm really excited that there are so many smart people that are in here and that are running. Joshua, I think that your ideas are awesome. Han, thank you so much for all that you do. And you know, Spencer as well, I'm really excited that you're here. I'm honored to be amongst all of you. And I'm really glad that there are so many people that are drawn to this space and they really want to make a contribution and put the time and the effort into making that happen. This is a really worthwhile experiment because democracy, you know, it's an advertisement, you know, and it's a lot of my concern is I used to work in television and media quite some time ago, and what I'm seeing is there's a lot of psychology that's used to manipulate people to vote, and when they don't get enough votes, then they just count them however they want. I believe there's no transparency in the voting system. In fact, both political parties prevent anyone from seeing the voting machines. So you might as well just drop whatever you're doing and throw a penny in a fountain and make a wish, and whoever cleans the pennies out of the fountain will let us know how many are in there at the end of the year. It's not really it's not bringing people together, and I want people to come together in consensus and agree together, have a 70%, more like a 70% agreement on how the government's being run, not a bunch of people who don't understand what's going on in the political system. And then when we do end up with a government or some sort of governance, you know, right now we have like 20, 30%, maybe 15% approval in a lot of cases of what we end up with. So nobody's happy. And we have political processes that we end up with a minority running things, and everyone after the election says, what happened? You know, we were promised this, we got that. Or, you know, for example, the last 4 years, the guy who said he was going to do a bunch of things actually did it, and that caused an uproar. Well, okay, so now we have a guy who says he wouldn't do a bunch of things, and now he's elected and he's doing the things that everyone said he was going to do. So, you know, how could there was no consensus in any of this, and the result is dissatisfaction no matter how it goes. And I'm excited that we have this opportunity to create a new form of consensus, and we have a lot of really smart people that are going to have to convince us to vote for them to make the difference. So I've got
Question
two
for you,
kids.
Thomas. Sorry.
I've got 2 kids. I was lived in Virginia, excited to be moving to Texas in the not too distant future.
Okay.
And my 2 kids are grown up. They're 24 and 20 this year. So
You look young, Thomas, on Zoom.
I got married young, had kids young. So I'm really excited for this. So that's who I am, and who I am for you guys is a supporter. I'm not running, but who I am for you guys is a supporter, and somebody who's very eager to find great talent to rise up inside of Eden and just drive strong governance going forward.
Quick question for you, Thomas. Good to meet you. Are you one of the developers working with Dan currently?
I am working with Dan. That's why I chose not to run. I'm a UX and design lead.
Good to know. Okay, before these guys say anything else, what were your questions for them, or your thoughts so far on what they pitched? I'm curious about what you think as a developer and an experienced media guy, and as an outsider who's going to be voting for one of them and not running yourself.
I have a question for Josh regarding AI and allowing AI to make decisions when what we're looking for is strong leadership to make that decision. How does AI come into play? And how does that support or supersede those who are chosen to lead?
Well, I have two immediate thoughts. First of all, I think we're going through human 2.0, so we have a very machine-focused view of AI. I think we're moving eventually toward a more biological thing. I think the human operating system, the human organism has its own AI, and I hope eventually, I feel the human organism is benevolent. I think it's the closest thing to what people describe as God. It's omnipresent, it's omnipotent, it's omniscient. It literally knows everything about all of us. And I do believe it's omnibenevolent. So we'll see what happens as we merge more to the quantum age in the next decade, how close computing and quantum computing starts to mirror and interface with the biology. But in the meantime, I'm just thinking about practical oracle networks and scraping data and being able to do things with it. And it's not my background or anything like that. I don't have the deepest depth of understanding. I just have some kind of practical, pragmatic idea. And my thought is that it's human error, it's human decision making, human agendas that's causing problems politically. And so that needs to be extremely restricted. Humans should not be making the decision. The law, the code, the rules should be making the decision for what is done. I do believe there should be some human oversight, and there should be humans. If AI triggers a situation like this needs to be investigated, humans need to conduct that investigation. But the decision making we need to use tools, not our own thought processes per se, for making decisions about what does and doesn't happen. We just follow the rules, the laws, the code that we have, and remove the human error from the ability to make decisions. And so my first major contribution to the governance system I'm going to be advocating a requirement that people have to sign something along these lines. And the thing is called the prime law. And if we have time, I'll present it to you today. I think we need an AI to enforce this prime law.
Okay. If you were given a budget and you rose up with an Eden and you were given a budget, what would you do with the funds?
Well, I would definitely try to get attention in the community. First, I would try to get Democratic mandate to use the funds for. I don't know if we really need funds to implement this into the governance structure, so probably wouldn't use the funds for that. But I would use the funds as a carrot. Like, here's what I'm thinking to do with the funds, and what I would do with the funds specifically would be the city project that I'm mentioning. I would give citizens the ability to quickly, collaboratively edit their charter, among other things. And as part of that, if we had the backbone and the infrastructure, you could think of it as kind of a deploying Clarion and Eden into a city. I would want the political playoffs in the Eden application to be the backbone of how they do the governance on a basic level in their city. So that would require some funds. At least they would need to use the EOS probably to operate and make it function. I would have to go within the community and develop a team to make it happen. So the funding would go toward whatever it takes to develop the solution.
I see that you're talking about cities and um, using Eden as a replacement for the current governance that's there. How would you implement that when you already have a government there who would oppose you having, replacing them essentially? Is that what you're saying? I was just wondering
If you
my
change
question
the
then-
charter, it's kind of a process, but if you change the charter, then they have to follow the charter. If you implement political playoffs, for example, in the charter, and if you also make it required to do it through Eden and on blockchain and that kind of thing, they have to do what's there, and the rest of the software would be oversight on, are these people doing what they're supposed to be doing? and just giving the individuals in the cities more power to do something. If they're, I mean, what's happening right now with these mayors, first of all, I think becoming a mayor is probably a very easy thing to do. It's probably very easy to outcompete people that are there. It's a question about how fraudulent the election process is. But when Dan talks about provably honest voting systems in his bio on More Equal Animals, he talks about how he figured out, like, well, it seems like our government makes this impossible to implement these, but on a city level, and especially if you change a charter, I think it's possible. I don't have any respect or interest in the country and the states. I think county in the US, I guess, or county equivalents, county, states, and countries, cities should become independent of them. And we have no need for that system of governance anymore. There's no reason for it to exist. It doesn't serve any kind of purpose, and it won't exist in the future. So cities need to become completely independent of any outside funding sources and of money from taxing people. And the first step, I think, is governance and giving individuals collaborative control over what's happening with the budget, oversight over it, the ability to go for that money and transparently have things going on where there's not like quid pro quo and that kind of stuff. So one site, one app with certain functionality in it. And it's amazing that cities don't really have their own platforms, like even their own social platforms. That's very perplexing to me.
But thanks. I think you answered my question though. You basically would want cities to change their charters for how they would vote.
Yeah. So
Or
for that to happen, people would have to get elected, or they have to put pressure on the current elected official to have the, I think it's different in different cities in the US and definitely in other non-English speaking places around the world. I don't even know what they call, they probably don't use the word charters, but the city council has a lot to do with the charter in many cases. So people need to get into those positions, or they need to somehow put extreme pressure on the other people.
Or a town council or something like that.
Or town council, yeah.
Okay, I got it. Cool. Thanks for answering that question. I got what you're saying. And do you have any experience in governance in like town governance or?
No, I've never been a public servant. I have a lot of interest in the new paradigm or the new structure of politics and every structure of civilization in general. But I intuitively feel like governance is a major power approach, to I'm a major advocate of depoliticizing, and I believe depoliticizing is what's going to set free the next wave of our mentality. Because the geniuses of society are being held down, and there's a lid of politicization that's just holding them down. So I just basically want to free the geniuses of society. And I'm not convinced that getting a president elected or a governor elected, or that the state and the national level in the United States, as example, would actually do anything. But I think if enough cities were changed, they would have a lot of strength in numbers.
Okay, got it. So you're covering a lot of different bases here, and I get that your take on governance and your understanding of the fact that the political system and the voting system is a bit broken. And although you don't have experience in governance, what you're saying is that you have a plan to go about this. So I hope that I captured what you were saying, but I want to ask, can I ask Khan a question? I would like to ask you the same thing. You talked about creating a city around EOS. Can you detail a little bit more about the practical approach that you would take? And I know that you have committed yourself to working quite a bit within the EOS community. You're translating Dan's book. What's the practical approach that you plan on taking within the leadership role in Eden?
It's actually, so right now, the city, when I talk about city, Eden comes across to me in a two meaningful way. One, we could build a local governance layer for the local community. That's one. I could, as Joshua just said, I think I can work with existing local governments, the city called Andong that I just said before. And then second approach is actually work with existing party in Korea. So Korea as well, like the US, is much like bipartisan country. Korea is also a very bipartisan, democratic, bipartisan country. And then if I see Dan's book, he says actually inside the party, the internal party governance system is not democratic at all. So in the end, people are deceived that although it looks like a democracy, it's not democracy at all. That's what he says, right? And that's exactly what happens in Korea as well. But then there's some new third parties that are emerging these days. And then they want to showcase how party can be different, how party internal governance and operation could be different. And I thought if that party can be adopting this system from Eden, proposed by Eden, I think it could mean a lot. And I think it is totally possible because I have a lot of connections in the Korean parliament and even with the Korean government. I have directly reported Korean president within Korea, what is it, the Presidential Committee of Fourth Industrial Revolution. I've been consulting with them. And connecting the dots, I see a lot of potential could realize, although it is still potential, but then I'm in such a weird position where I can connect different things. And when I said the city, it's actually I've been preparing blockchain, EOS based blockchain for medical cannabis C2 sales tracking solution. Because in Korea, like any other countries in Asia, the cannabis or any psycho-activating substances are very harshly punished. It's very restricted things. But then in Andong City, where my family is from, it is making their city cannabis regulation-free zone. And then they want to incubate certain companies to see if it can become a local industry that can financially sustain the population. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I thought we could tokenize the farm so that we can evolve into something new type of organization that is not divided by shareholders and employees, but then everybody's shareholder and employees. So sort of new forms of organization. I thought it can be possible if we have a right kind of charter where it allows new form of incorporation that can just like Wyoming.
Mhm.
So I could showcase how Eden could work out in that whole process because I've been already engaging with that cannabis regulation free zone and I'm already building the tool for the local government. So I think that's the way I'm taking the city approach. I don't know how Eden could be, somehow integrated with the city, but then we'll see. I'm already feeling like, having this conversation like 43 minutes right now. I feel never been so engaged in the political process so far in my whole life. I'm genuinely interested, learn more about Joshua's project and Spencer and Thomas, all of you. I just really wanted to connect and hear more things from you. So, and one of the things that I'm seeing very inspiring is that all of us are seeing some sort of hope in this whole process and the possibilities of this process. So I'm very excited. I don't know. Sorry, I was jumping.
No, I got from both you and Josh that you're both really passionate about this, and this is the first. It's a test, right? It's an early test of Eden's governance system. I got what you're saying, that you would like to work locally, both of you, to build some sort of local consensus and get it applied in a community. I like what you're saying, and I'm not sure that this is entirely what you intended, but cannabis is a bit controversial, but you see that as a test bed for trying out some sort of governance system, and that's available to you. I'm not excited about using cannabis because it would be tied to Eden, but a community, test bed area like that sounds like a great place to try out some sort of governance where we actually do have conversations, because in the current voting environment, we don't have conversations, we don't communicate. We're spoken to, and politicians come in and they say, let's have a conversation, and then they talk for an hour. There's no conversation, there's no community, there's no relationship or relatedness among the people. It's just receiving what they want you to hear. So it's really refreshing to hear the passion coming from you and Joshua, and thank you both. Is there anything you'd like to add in regards to my comment about how you might apply it? It sounds like you've got some opportunity that are connected to the very high in governance and in Korea, and also in the SAR, special administrative region types that you're talking about around cannabis. I think I get the sense that you've got some ideas you're formulating.
I don't
First,
know.
how many minutes do we have before we have to?
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
3.
So
Maybe we should start reaching consensus.
one last thing. I wanted to ask you, because Thomas, Spencer, you don't mean to be elected. So if you what do you want to see if any of us ended up elected? Where does the reward should be spent? Do you have any idea or suggestions?
Do we have to come to consensus verbally here within the meeting? I think we kind of do.
Yes,
Right?
because if we don't have Byzantine fault tolerant, if we don't have consensus, then it doesn't count. Our vote doesn't count.
I think both of you are very intelligent and would be great contributors. If I were to cast a vote right now, it would be a hard choice, but I would lean toward Han, because I believe that you have you can make a difference immediately in accelerating Eden into a community right now, and I hope that that's my choice.
Yeah, thanks for that, Thomas. I feel similar. Hard choice, Josh. I appreciate your vision on consensus in the cities. It feels a little early, personally, for that for me. Anyway, there's a lot of exciting discussion I'd like to have. I wish we had more time. But since it feels a little bit early, in my opinion, to affect cities with Eden at this point, and since Han is in a place to immediately affect EOS in his position as BP, and he was mentioning the tool for the exchanges, my vote would go for Han right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel the same as both of you gentlemen. It's a hard choice, but in terms of priorities and what needs to be done with, if you win the funds, Han, I would cast my vote for you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. What I wanted to do in the future, and one of the good things with the whole Eden process is that there's a new form of relationship is formed within this process. So I really wanted to keep in touch with you, and I wanted to consult with you and hear your thoughts in the ongoing processes. So if I advance, that's exactly what I wanted to hear from the person that got elected, from our group. We have
that's one of the things that we get. I'll just jump in quickly here, just so you guys know. One of the things that we get from this is we have a direct relationship with you, Han.
Yes.
And we support you in your growth and moving up through this, through these playoffs. And now we know that we have somebody to go to have communication with, and let all the other people around us know, we're talking with Han, we're in support of him, and now we're connected to the top, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, this Eden
So in that regard, what I would hope that you spend the money on is getting out into building a community
yes,
there
yes.
in Korea and creating this
Mm.
somewhere in a community, whether it's a town, a city, a bunch of shopkeepers, however this happens, and push that forward and make that and bring that into fruition. And when we see examples that work and people get excited about, creating together, then that's what I would like you to spend the money on.
Wow, man, Thomas, Spencer, Joshua, thank you so much. I'm already, this is Eden. I mean, this is direct relationship with people represents me. And I'm as a person who represents you in this small group, I feel real connection. Tom, Joshua, Spencer, this is Power of Eden. I'm feeling first-handedly participating in this process. I'm getting goosebumps right now. Wow, this is crazy. Wow. Thank you so much for your time. I really sincerely appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much, Thomas, Spencer, Joshua. Thank you.
Pleasure
Thank you
meeting
so much.
everybody. Likewise. Very cool.
Thank
Let's
you,
keep
Han.
in touch.
Yes.
Should it be? I'm stopping recording. Stopping. I can stop it, right?
I don't know how that, it is being recorded, I think, by the outside, and I think we're going to have to leave to vote, right?
I'm stopping it.